Janelle Hobson, thank you so much for being on A House for Arts. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me.
So I'm so excited to talk with you, Janelle, about some of your research and your work. And so just to kind of give our viewers a little bit of like a brief overview, if that's even possible, of all of the work you've done. You have done years of research and work on media and media culture, pop culture, representations of Black people, but particularly representations of Black women. And some of the titles for the books that you've published over the years are fascinating, like Venus in the Dark and Body as Evidence. I mean, these all sound so great. I know that you're editing a volume right now on cultural histories of Black women in the U.S., as well as your own book that you've penned yourself about Black women's imagination in American history. Can you tell us particularly about this book that you're writing right now? What is the title of it? What does the title mean? And what story does this book tell us in general about Black women in American history?
Yes. So the full title of the new book is When God Lost Her Tongue, Historical Consciousness and the Black Feminist Imagination. And this is more than just American history. It actually explores the African diaspora. So I look at different historical scenarios from the Caribbean to North America to the African continent to Europe. And I am interested in exploring, or rather, I'm interested in placing Black women's histories at the center and repositioning Black women so that they occupy significant space when we think about different elements of world history. So, from the Haitian Revolution in the Caribbean to Black women in art in terms of European paintings to the iconic history of Harriet Tubman here in the US, as well as African goddesses from various cultures throughout the diaspora, as well as how they are manifest in our present day
Right.
popular culture.
So tell me
And
a little more about that, Janelle, because you talked about spirituality and religion and some of the visual culture that comes with that, as well as French painting and pop culture. I know that you've also written as well for online venues like Ms. Magazine about Beyonce's music videos, right? So I'm
yeah,
kind of curious to know, like, maybe give one or two examples of like a 19th century French painting that shows Black women, as well as what is the relationship between that and Beyonce's music videos? Tell us more about that.
sure. Well, with you mentioned French painting. One that comes to mind immediately is Marie Benoit's Portrait d'une Négresse, and that features a Black woman as a sole subject in portraiture. It hangs at the Louvre. It came out, it made its Paris debut in 1800, and it has become an iconic image, and it certainly was featured in Beyonce and Jay-Z's music video, the one that they based in the Louvre and that came out in 2018. What's interesting about that particular painting is the way that it reframes and refocuses our aesthetic eye towards Black female beauty and Black femininity. Oftentimes in European paintings, you would see Black women positioned in various elements of servitude or slavery. And with this particular painting, which came out right around the time when France had abolished slavery a few years before, and just before someone like Napoleon reinstates it within the French colonies. So we have a subject matter here where the Black woman who is featured is neither slave nor is she fully free. So there's a certain kind of ambiguity around what is her status.
Right.
We know that her name is actually Madeline, and her name was used for the first time in a special exhibit at the Musée d'Orsay back in 2019. It opened the Black Models special exhibit curated by the African American art historian Denise Merle.
Right.
And we've also seen various contemporary Black women artists from Ayanna V. Jackson to the late Maud Salter to Elizabeth Colomba, who've
Right.
all kind of signified on that image. And then of course we can add Beyonce to that list because of the ways in which
So,
she frames that painting in her
right.
music video.
How so? What does Beyonce do with these images now that's different? I mean, you talked about the ambiguity of the black female subject in this earlier French painting. What does Beyonce do with that that's new, and why is that important?
What Beyonce does, which I think is fascinating, is that she actually crops the painting so that the full painting shows she's partially nude in terms of the art subject. She's has her headscarf, which is like an iconic look for many black women in these kinds of paintings. And what's interesting in the Beyonce and Jay-Z video is that the painting is actually close cropped so that we actually get a focus on that particular woman's gaze. And so I see in the way she's framed in the music video, she is actually given a certain kind of subjectivity that is different. It's new. She gets to basically stare back. We get to see her gaze in a very interesting way, and she's the only art subject in that music video from the Louvre that is actually given a gaze where she can actually look back at her viewers. And I think that's a really important image to see of a dark-skinned black woman who is shown for aesthetic appreciation and beauty to actually be able to have her own gaze and to actually be something beyond just an object in art, an
Right.
actual
So
object
I'm
in art.
wondering, Janelle, this is really fascinating. How did you first get inspiration to write about these kinds of subjects and write about that kind of shifting meaning of black female subject over time in art and pop culture and visual culture? Where did that first spark ignite for you?
Well, I know that when I was an undergraduate at the University of Georgia, I was a major in English and I was preoccupied with trying to complete all of my various major requirements. But it was pointed out to me by an advisor that there was a new course called 19th Century Black Women's Literature taught by Professor Barbara McCaskill. And that changed everything for me because it was the first time that I actually took a course as an English major where Black women's voices were at the center. And so I was exposed to various African American women who I didn't even know existed at that time, who
Right.
were writing their own works, poetry, memoirs, letters, slave
It
narratives.
was like this whole world was opened up to you with this
Yeah,
class.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'm
Uh,
kind of wondering, you're talking about these different subjects and these music videos and these paintings and literature too, right? Because it's all the arts kind of combined into one
yeah.
to sort of provide this whole panorama and this kaleidoscope of Black women's voices. I'm sure that viewers who are watching this can't help but think, too, of your work and its importance in the context of the current political moment. Particularly, I'm thinking of the Black Lives Matter movement and the Me Too movement as well. I know that writing your books has been a long and rewarding journey for you, and you started this even several years prior. But maybe you could help us put your work into this current political context. Why is it important in particular now for us to understand the importance of Black women's voices in art and popular culture in this moment right now?
Well, in this moment, I actually think of this moment as a historical moment. Because of everything that's happened from the global pandemic to these kind of political unrest that we're dealing within our own culture, within our own country, and it's an important time for us to think of, where is our place in history? Where is our place as Black women in the larger histories in particular? And with regards to the forthcoming book, When God Lost Her Tongue, which is coming out later this year, I should at least mention that the book's title comes from a particular story. It's part of popular national folklore of Haiti, in which the love goddess Urzali from Haitian voodoo, she is believed to be the spirit who ignites that Haitian Revolution in 1791, in which she is able to inspire the people to rise up against their enslavers and seize their freedom through bloodshed.
And I understand
And
that this is the first and one of the only successful slave rebellions in history, right? Is the one that took place in
yes,
Haiti in 1790s, the 1791.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And what is interesting about the story and the lore is that later on, during the years of the Haitian War of Independence, this same goddess has her tongue cut out from her. And which is interesting because that's a recurring motif actually in many world histories, world literatures, and patriarchal religions in particular, this maiming and disfigurement of the goddess. And so for me, titling this new book, When God Lost Her Tongue, is an apt metaphor, I think, for Black women's histories and Black women's representations because it represents this kind of historical silencing that has happened in which we expect Black women to exist in some kind of void. But what is amazing about the Loas, the spirit, Urzuli, is that even though her tongue is cut out, she still insists on speaking. So we know in terms of voodoo ceremonies, we know her presence not by the words she speaks, but by the sound she makes. And so there, to me, I think that is such a wonderful driving, powerful force about what it means to still insist on making noise,
Right.
despite someone taking your words from you. And with regards to history, we may not find Black women's histories in the actual words that are recorded in official histories, but we can find them through our historical consciousness and the Black feminist imagination through whether it's visual arts or literature or even within our own popular culture where we
Right.
make those histories manifest.
Well, it sounds like your new book, When God Lost Her Tongue, is certainly making a lot of noise and a lot of good noise too, right?
I
And it
would
really,
hope so.
yeah, I mean, it sounds like your research really helps people to reclaim a history that's been lost, right? I mean, this is
Yes.
really kind of a reclamation and a reckoning. Thank you
Thank
for being
you.
on House for Arts. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks again for having me.